Hello and welcome to Bitesize Edge. Here with me, Jules, and I have the pleasure today of speaking to a rather fabulous lady by the name of Lynn Hord. Now, Lynn Hord is, I would say, AKA the Joy Coach. She's the founder of Joy School and the Joy Jam Sessions business networking event, which I've had the pleasure of attending. And Lynn believes choosing joy is the secret to leading more purposeful, meaningful, and magical lives. What an incredible intro. Purposeful, meaningful, and magical lives. Good morning, Lynn. How are you?
Hello, lovely Jules. I am very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
It's a pleasure to have you on one of our podcasts. So thank you so much for giving up your time to speak to me today. So I love the term the Joy Coach. It just completely resonates with me, and we'll probably talk about your Joy Collective a little bit later on. So tell me, how did you come to be the Joy Coach?
Well, let's just say when I was younger...
There was a pause. Go on. Yes, when you were younger.
When I was younger, let's just say I wasn't exactly the most joyful person. I think if you'd asked any of my friends, the thing they would have said is, oh, Lynn's a bit on the serious side.
Really? I can't even imagine that of you.
I know, but I was, when I was younger, I was very serious. I was a very anxious young person, very, concerned about what I was doing in the world and doing things right and all of that kind of thing. So I didn't really ever consider joy. I didn't ever really think about like enjoying life until I was in my really late 20s, to be honest. And I was in that position which a lot of people find themselves in. I had a lot of life boxes ticked. I had a good job, I had a boyfriend, good salary. I was living in Sydney. It was pretty awesome. So it was all really great. But of course, I wouldn't have described myself as happy. And I was sitting at my desk one day and all of a sudden I had this incredible feeling in my body. And I can now describe it as, it was like joy, bliss. I was like, wow, what the hell is going on? I was like, wow, this is an amazing feeling. And at that time, I was like, what caused it? So I was looking at something outside of myself to go, what actually created this in me? And the epiphany that I had in that moment was the realization that it actually wasn't created by anything outside me. It was a spontaneous feeling within me of joy. And I was like, oh my God, how do I repeat this? It was a really extraordinary moment having...
Wow. That's incredible.
Yes.
I knew it.
And having not actually really even focused on or thought about joy before then, I was like, wow, that's amazing. So that kind of really began the journey of me seeking joy for myself.
Yeah.
And over the next 10 years, I was just looking at ways of like, how do I bring this more into my life? How do I recreate this feeling within myself? So yeah, that was a bit of a journey over about 10 years, I think. And somewhere along in my journey of coaching, I got interviewed by a journalist. She's like, Lynn, I'm doing a story about happiness. Can I talk to you about that? Now, at that time, I wasn't the joy coach. I was just someone talking about how to make your life better.
Yeah.
But it was in this conversation with this woman that it actually hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I need to talk about joy. That is actually what I'm here to do.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was when the Joy Coach was born, and I have been talking about it ever since.
That's incredible. So if we just go back to that moment, that kind of moment where you had that almost light bulb of bliss and joy and happiness, are you able to pinpoint what the trigger for that was, or it was just one of those magical things?
I think that there wasn't a trigger. I think that was the point of that experience for me.
Okay.
It was knowing and understanding that joy actually lives inside us already. It's not something that, so you can do things and have external experiences that trigger your joy. But I think part of the, and this is part of my work, is helping people see that although yes, that is true, we often rely on and wait for something outside of ourselves to bring us joy, whereas we can actually access it as an emotion, as a sensation within us. And I think that's the reason I had that experience, because that's what I've been trying to do, is move away from, like, how do I do that, to really creating that emotion and that experience inside my body when I want to.
So it's not about something, as you just said, like there's no external stimulus for this. This is a totally within us.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
which is pretty extraordinary that we can do that. Look, I'm not saying it's easy, guys. Like, do not have this sorted. just to put that out there. But yes, I think that is ultimately what we keep trying to do, that recognizing that we can create that feeling inside of ourselves.
That's quite an incredible thing, isn't it? And I suppose my question would be, and this is probably from my own point of view, I know I have experienced many times that sense of joy, and whether or not I've realized it and been able to almost bank it is something different. So my question is really, what happens if somebody's never been able to recognize that joy within them? How do they go about finding it if they don't know what it is?
That's a great question. And the very first place that I always get people to start, and to be honest, sometimes even this is quite a challenge,
Yeah.
is just to get them to focus on what are the very simple things in life that they enjoy. So for some people, like I was when I was younger, the idea of actually enjoying anything is just not something that crosses your mind.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we need to turn our brains to pay attention to the things we enjoy. And I'm talking really simple things, like a cup of coffee, like a hug, like the
Yeah.
sunshine on your face.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's the very first place for people to begin. And across this journey, and of course, my own experience, I know that even doing that sometimes doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to access
Yeah.
that joy straight away. It really is a journey. Like, it's not like you can flip a switch and all of a sudden you experience joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is, but it is a gradual turning of your mind. It is a recognizing the emotion in in the sensation in your body when you're having joy. And there's also a lot of beliefs around that people need to look at around, do I deserve joy? Like, that's a real thing. And also, funnily enough, and I totally get this one, people fear experiencing joy because it is such a beautiful emotion. Because then they're like, joy by its very nature is fleeting. It doesn't stay. It comes and goes and comes and goes.
Mm.
So what I suggest people aim for is more joy, more of the time. That's my kind of catchphrase.
Okay. So it's not about suddenly finding that joy and it stays with you 24/7. It's, as you just said there, more joy more of the time. What
Yes,
it looks like for the individual sitting in front of you.
absolutely. Yes. So, I mean, and one of the really simple places to start is sensation. So, seeing beauty through your eyes, listening to music that you enjoy, savoring food that you love, touching. I mean, I love a bit of cashmere, so I'm wearing a cashmere jumper right now, and look, I might have like stroked myself a few times today, if I'm honest. So even those things we can, but it's also allowing it in. It's like, oh, that's not joyful, but it actually is.
Yeah.
It's letting yourself, it's allowing yourself to experience that joy and know that as a human, you innately deserve to experience joy. You are innately joyful as a person. And I truly believe this. Inside of us, we are all innately joyful. We just have so many layers of emotion and belief around joy that kind of can get in the way. So that's also part of the journey.
That's quite incredible. And as you were talking there about mindset, obviously a lot of what we do within the kind of NLP world is work with people who very much have those limiting beliefs, a belief that they hold about themselves that is kind of embedded from whatever, experiences, memories, upbringings that we have. So it's really interesting. It's that whole thing around, for some people especially, I can't feel joy, and that's maybe what they truly believe, or I don't deserve to have joy in my world. And we live in such a chaotic, busy, just wow, all of this millions and millions of pieces of information coming at us at any one time. No wonder it's so challenging just to almost pause and just recognize actually how we might be feeling at any moment in time. Because I wonder how often we do that. When do we actually go, right, I'm just going to stop for a moment. How am I, and really connect to, you know, as you're talking about, inward, inside us, how am I actually really feeling right now? And I just don't think we do that.
No, and you totally nailed one of the points there around joy actually exists in the present moment. We experience joy when we are in the here and now with what's in front of us. And as you say, we have so much competing for our time. We are often thinking about the future, or worrying about the future, or, you know, feeling anxious about the past, but we're never wholly in the present. We're very rarely in the present, and that's actually where joy lives.
Yeah.
So it's that whole, as you said, it's that mindful practice, which can be really difficult because of all of the things that are competing for our time and attention.
Yeah. So it's just almost, I mean, it's one of the phrases I use so much, and I wish I could listen to it more often myself, but it's that fact of going, just be kind to yourself, putting yourself first sometimes, and recognizing that that's okay, and not needing to have the guilt around it, and just allowing yourself that moment of being present in drinking a cup of tea, or, you know, going for a walk and feeling the sun on your face, or, you know, whatever it might be. I wholeheartedly hear you on that one, and would, you know, really encourage as many people to do that as possible. It's just, as you said, just a starting point.
Yes, and the other thing that you said that's really worth repeating is that letting people know that they really do deserve those moments of joy. They deserve, you know, that experience of momentary bliss.
Yeah.
And as you say, that is a belief, a limiting belief people often have, that I don't deserve joy. But just, you know, it's great that if they're listening, you absolutely 100% deserve it.
Yeah. Fabulous. So, Lynn, let's talk, shall we, about your wonderful Joy Jam sessions, the business network events that you run, that I've been very lucky to be at a number of these. So where did the kind of Joy School and the Joy Jam sessions, was it a natural evolution? Is that the right word? No, evolving from beginning as the Joy Coach? It's just more tools in your toolkit? Or where did this come from, the Joy School?
Joy School was actually my first online program. So when I first started, when I hung my hat on my head as the Joy Coach, way back at the end of 2014, I think it is, I, you know, obviously started talking about joy, and then I'm really good with processes. I can break things down really well. So I kind of created my own signature process for how to help somebody bring more joy into their life, and that's what Joy School is. So it was an online program to support people in creating more joy in their own life. And so that's what, you know, and that's for anyone out there in the world who's like, you know, I'd really love to just experience more joy and actually pay more attention to how do I do this, you know, for myself.
And is this something that they can kind of click into at any moment in time, or do you actually run specific programs through the year? How does it actually work?
So far it's only actually been, I've run it live, but I'm actually in the process of making it a self-study. So sometime soon it will be people can click and, you know, go through the process for themselves. So that's coming.
That's
and then the Joy Jam, so that's kind of like for the people, as I said, out there in the world doing their thing. It doesn't matter, you know, what sector or field or, you know, where they're at in life, you know, that can support them to kind of increase their joy. The Joy Jam sessions business networking event was kind of aimed at women in business. It is actually open to men. I just tend to have attracted more women in business there. And it was because I saw a gap in the market for women or people really connecting at a networking event, really like on a heart-centered level, and focusing a business and their approach to business around joy. Now, of course, you've been to them, which is really wonderful, and it's about connecting. It is about building relationships and building our business through those relationships and connecting. But one of the things that we all have in common is that we all want more joy in our business. We all want more joy in our life. So it's really focusing on that, bringing that emotion more into what you do, from what you offer to how you talk about your work, to the way that you market and network. It's all about bringing in that joy, because as you said at the beginning, I believe it really is our guiding light. It's our navigational compass. So if you keep focusing on it, it doesn't matter if it's about business or life, if you keep focusing on where is the joy in this for me, it's really going to lead you in the direction that you want.
That's fabulous. And it was actually through one of the Joy Jam sessions where I met the very, very wonderful Louise Miller, productivity mentor, who has done a podcast with me, and has actually really changed my life when it comes to to-do lists. So there's the power right there in this space of allowing joy to be there and meeting and networking with like-minded individuals. So I have you to thank for that, Lynn.
Well, and Louise is an absolute gem. So you are very welcome. I work with her myself. She's a treat.
She's
amazing
wonderful.
What she does.
Yeah, she's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Can I
and
ask?
Also, oh yes.
Yeah. No, go on.
Well, and also just because one of the things, so I obviously have speakers at the networking event, but they are speakers who are supporting us in doing business in a new way. So doing business where, it's not about the hustle and the push and the fearfulness. It's actually about doing business in an expansive way, in a sustainable way, in a joyful way. So that's also, the speakers I bring in, I want them to really support all of us, moving into doing business in that way.
And you have created that so beautifully, and I can't wait to come back when I'm able to make it and be part of that again, because it was a really, really special space. So I'm looking forward to being able to come back. I was just going to ask you really, not briefly, but I was going to ask you the question, Lynn, just really from a personal point of view, because you've talked a lot here about experiencing joy and being the joy coach. You've also been really honest in the fact that, joy doesn't sit there all of the time. And I just wanted, if it's okay with you, just to ask you the question. I know that you've been on quite an incredible journey, which if you're willing to share, I would love to hear it. But just how that journey with cancer and your journey with joy has fared, if you like. Does that make sense?
It does indeed. So great question. So I can share an actual story right at the very beginning of my diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in August 2018. I kind of call it like a spiritual bomb going off in my life.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
When you get that kind of diagnosis, it affects there is no stone unturned and no aspect of your life untouched. And I remember right back at the beginning, and I'm wondering this for myself. I was like, okay, I'm the joy coach, I've got this cancer diagnosis, how do these two things kind of go together? And I remember sitting, so I have a friend who's a brilliant EFT practitioner, so emotional freedom technique or tapping person. And she supported me throughout my whole cancer journey. And I remember way back at the beginning, one of my very first sessions with her, I sat there and I said to her, I was like, what if I could make this the most joyful experience of my life?
Yeah.
And because I was like, I had a real fire in my belly. I was like, look, I am not going to let this experience, of course, at the time I didn't know what was ahead, but I knew that it may not necessarily be great. And I was like, what if I looked at it that way? Now, you know, in the bigger picture, was it the most joyful experience in my life? The answer is no. Did I experience joy within that time? Absolutely. It was one of the richest, most beautiful experiences of my life. So that having that chat with that person, like actually putting that out there right at the very beginning, what it did, and I can see, like looking back, what it did was keep me open and willing to see what was good about this situation that I was in, this experience that I was having. And it really made the difference. I have so many beautiful experiences that I would never have had,
Yeah.
through that time. Like, I had a tsunami of love hit me after I started telling people about my diagnosis. It was just beautiful. Like, it brought me to tears, the amount of people that were just like, Lynn, I could feel them sending me their love.
Yeah.
And the support that I received, and the time I got to spend. Like, my dad came over to look after me for 6 months. He lives in Australia. He and my mum live in Australia. And, so I got to, and my dad's one of my favourite people in the world. And, I got to spend, 5.5 months, me and him, like, cracking jokes in my lounge room, because obviously I was on my couch watching a lot of Netflix whilst I was going through chemo and recovering from my operation.
Yeah.
So, there, and I think so that's the really big thing. It's, joy is so much about, am I open and looking for where joy can be showing up in my life right now?
Yeah.
And even if you are going through really awful times, it can still show up. I'm not saying it shows up all the time. I'm not saying that you need to be looking for it, but if you're open to it, it can really change the experience that you're having.
Wow, that's quite an incredible choice, because I guess it's like anything, there is choice in how, you want to begin a journey, or how you choose to think about something. We've touched on mindset and the power of it, but just that openness to joy, and just the opportunities to see where that joy sits, that's quite extraordinary. That's really got me thinking. Because you might think to yourself, well, where is there any joy when you hear the word cancer? Where is joy?
Well, and can I share another story?
Yeah, please.
It's like my first day of chemo, I was terrified. You just don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
That this chemo is this massive, cocktail of chemicals that's going to be, shed into your body. So it's really, it's a really fearful, terrifying time. But my favorite memory of that day is, I was sitting in the chair, attached to the, getting the drugs pumped into my arm, and I was getting upset because, I was experiencing some pain, and obviously I was just like, what is that? Why is that happening? And the nurse at that time, she just walked up to me. She grabbed my hand. She said, Lynn, it's going to be okay. I'm right here with you. I'm not going anywhere. And honestly, the compassion and love and kindness that she gave me, I'm just saying this to you now, like, almost brings me to tears. It was incredible. She didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That's not part of her job, but she did. And it was such a beautiful experience just to have somebody grab your hand and say, I'm here, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave you alone.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just like the beauty of those kind of experiences. Like, I sometimes think either if we don't notice them, or we take them for granted. But she had a choice about doing that, but she showed up in her beautiful energy and calmed me down, and I was able to go, okay, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So there are just
Those moments of, I guess, human connection.
Yes.
Base level.
And
So powerful.
yeah, and I just received so much of that, and I was really focusing on where that was coming to me as well. I was like, and I did actually do a little prayer in the morning, something my my mentor taught me, around asking for, it sounds quite funny, but I said, like, God, please send the angels out to pave the path of my day with love and kindness. Yeah, and it honestly, I just received so much of it. I was like, wow, it was incredible.
And so deserving of it. And I think that's also something to hold on to. the fact that you were open to it, allowed it to be there, and you were accepting of it and knew that you were deserving of it. And there lies once again that power of mindset, because if you're open to it, it will come. You know,
Yes, well said. Yeah.
it's such a choice. I so believe it's such a choice, and one that we can all shift and change if we so choose.
It really is, and I love that you brought that down to that is the simple thing with joy. And a lot of the message I share around joy is very simple. I mean, the application sometimes can be difficult because all of our internal stuff gets in the way. But it is true that joy is a moment by moment choice. It's like, do I want to look for the joy here? You know, am I willing to experience the joy that I'm feeling? So 100%, I'm glad you said that. It really is a choice.
Amazing. Lynn, it has just been so joyful to talk to you today. It's just been wonderful. So thank you. If anybody would like to find you, either on social media or your website, where can they do that? And I will share this also in the link, but where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, which is lynnhord.com.
Yeah.
And they can also find me on Facebook. My Facebook page is facebook.com/The Joy Coach, I think.
They look for the joy. Yeah.
I will confirm that for you.
Fabulous. I'll put you on the spot. But they can find your website, which I guess is the main thing, lynnhord.com. Is that right?
Correct. That's it. Yeah.
And again, I promise I'll share all of the details anyway. But Lynn, thank you. Thank you so, so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for bringing some joy into this conversation for the last 30 minutes or so. So thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful conversation.
You are very welcome. You take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.